We're going to talk more on Andrew idolizing his father and continuing the cycle of abuse. So Andrew took this whole experience of him being put away in jail because of women coming forward and saying that they were trafficked and abused. He's turned it into persecution. He's becoming the victim. We can see how this is a narcissistic trait, where they become the victim, they don't have to take any responsibility. And he goes even further to say that this was all written before in some prophecy. And it was all supposed to happen, and he's telling the truth about his paradigm on relationships. He's idolizing his father and trying to become like him. And we know that victims of abuse sometimes become abusers themselves. It is this survival mechanism. If it's an environment where narcissists thrive, then become the narcissist. The two other options are either heal, which he doesn't want to do, or become the victim, or empath, or enabler that is attracted to the narcissist. And he doesn't want that either. In a child's view, the capsule unit that they have with their caregiver or caregivers constitutes their whole reality. So we have the narcissist and the accompanying person to the narcissist, whether they're an empath, enabled, abused themselves, and primed for abuse in their own childhood. So to a child, those are the two options that are available. There isn't the option of healing. That only comes later as an adult who is willing to heal and look at their childhood wounds. In spiral dynamics, this is the red stage where you eat or get eaten. This kind of trauma is too much for a child to handle, so it gets stored in the body to be processed at a later time, when the child has matured and has the resources and tools to do that kind of healing. And the issue is that when these emotions come up to be processed and integrated later in life, they can be misinterpreted as threatening, and they can be repressed or projected onto external factors, which become the source of someone's problems. And there you have a refusal to take accountability and projecting that blame outwards. So he might have felt small, rejected, abandoned when his dad was out roaming the world, enjoying the company of various different women. And when he would see him, he would give him very harsh words and hit him. So Andrew didn't feel very special then. So a narcissist can go from feeling totally inadequate and worthless when they are not getting that supply, that external validation. And this desire to feel superior, it's almost balancing out those deep feelings of insecurity. What I found really interesting about this was realizing that narcissistic supply is a mechanism to avoid feelings of inadequacy. And the thing about these patterns is they're really difficult to change. There is this wiring that happens in the brain that just gets deeper and deeper as it's entrenched in its own pattern. And the issue here is the lack of self-awareness and realizing that it's a survival mechanism, that it's a pattern, because you need to recognize that it's a pattern to avoid continuing to entrench the same pattern. It's a coping mechanism. It's something that he used to survive as a child, and he's carried this on into adulthood, and the results are very destructive for him interpersonally, but also on a much wider scale. So the last thing from this video that I find really interesting is how she mentions that Andrew is really only interested in women who are abused. And I talk about that in the last video where I mention his sister. So this is the sad facts. As long as you continue to avoid healing repressed emotions from childhood wounds, you're only going to attract people into your life that reflect and nurture those patterns of repressing the childhood wounds. Like we talked in the last video, women who are healed are either going to be repelled by him or trigger that deep sense of unworthiness. This becomes an isolated echo chamber where the only women in his reality are continuing to reflect the same patterns back to him. But he's failing to realize it all begins with you. You have the most power to change your life. This video was so interesting. Go check it out. It's by Live Abuse Free. Watch her channel, like and subscribe. Starting to look deep at our own patterns gives us that freedom to move out of a world that was unclear and confusing and chaotic, and we can start to develop ourselves, develop our own lives, and have healthy careers, relationships, and really enjoy our life to the fullest.